You are listening to the sounds of the Right On Network.
Hello and welcome to episode 25 of On the Record Jams, brought to you by the Right On Network. I'm AJ.
And I'm Arthur.
And we are here this time to talk about On the Record, Weezer, their sophomore album. Sometimes people call that a sophomore jinx. Pinkerton. And on Pinkerton, we're going to talk about, Arthur just reminded me before we recorded, the lead single, El Scorcho, written by Rivers Cuomo. This album, unlike the first album, which was produced by Rick Ocasek, this was self-produced. They decided, like, hey, we got this. So they did it themselves. Now, before we talk about Pinkerton, Weezer, and their legacy and their unlikely legacy, I want to thank our Patreon subscribers because they are the reason why this specific podcast on the Right On Network, On the Record Jams, exists. And that is Alan Wright. He's Bold Outlaw. Check him out on boldoutlaw.com. He's a Robin Hood enthusiast and scholar. And when I say scholar, I mean that in every sense of the word. Right now, he's doing college classes, teaching folks about, how pop culture affects us in literature and what have you. We have DJ Merk. He's the sound of the Right On Network. DJ Merk. Check out his music. Merk Bandwidth on the music platforms. Buy his music. Merk Bandwidth. MERC. Cluck Trent. Kevin Federkoski. Mark Blair. Over in Australia, we have Paul Hicks. Gotta love the Paul. Laurel Phillips. Check her out on Feathers and Foes, a Birds of Prey podcast. The Irredeemable Shag at the Fire and Water Podcast Network. Justin Steiner. He's on Substack. Justin Steiner. He does a Substack called Shoe Fly Pie. Rick from Jeff and Rick Present Unpacking the Power of the Power Pack. She makes a proper cup of coffee on a copper coffee pot. Chris Pine 1. Bill Beer of The Bat Pod. We have April 5K. Check her out. She's on Straight Out of the Federation of Blake 7 podcast, as well as The Manhattan Project, where she talks about Seinfeld and Friends, some 1990s must-see TV stuff. The great Jordan Holt and Clinton Robeson of Fan Film Fridays and Coffee and Comics. Guys, thank you for going to patreon.com/Right On Network. We truly appreciate it. And if you want to support the podcast, hey, go to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, anywhere where you can write a review and rate us, because it triggers the algorithms, and Terminator 2 will come and find those people who also like to talk about music and listen to music. And that way they can come back to On the Record Jams, and man, we can get the conversation going. All right, guys. So it was September 1996. All right. So this is a time period where, Kurt Cobain, he killed himself, back in 1994. Soundgarden, either this was going to be their last album up on the downside, or they had just quit. So, and then Pearl Jam, they were already doing we're going to war with Ticketmaster. We're not doing music videos. So they're not in the public eye. So grunge, journalists and all this stuff, they're trying to push grunge out because they're like, okay, MTV, they'll tell you this. So when Britney Spears, when she hit it high, and some people were complaining, hey, wait a minute, remember, what's with this? And MTV would say, hey, when Britney Spears was hitting it, our ratings were high. When things like Nirvana, when that was in major rotation, the ratings were low. Janine Garofalo says she doesn't believe that. She told them, but that's what they said. And I believe it. I believe it, right? So when Weezer, because I'm telling you, I love Weezer. I listened to the first album, the Blue Album, a lot when I was in 9th grade. And even then, because you got to think, I don't really, I'm 14 years old, 15 years old. I don't really have perspective as far as, what longevity is going to be. Oh, I can tell this is going to last. So, I don't even have that type of mindset, that bandwidth at 15 years old. But I kind of thought, man, this Blue Album, this sounds really good. I don't think I'm going to hear from these people again. And they even had 3 singles. But I think, I don't know, it was a lot of stuff, even at a young age, where it came and it went. It came and it went. So like, oh man, I really love You Can't Do That on Television. It ended. I like He-Man. It ended. Like, I think even by the time I hit 9th grade in 1993, 94, 95, there were things where, man, this feels like it's going to last forever. It ended. So I did have like a sense of that. And I was pretty sure, like, I don't think when I'm a 20-something-year-old, Weezer will be there. I don't think I ever verbalized that or truly thought that, but I think it was somewhere in my mind. So when they came out with the second album, I was like, oh, great. So MTV, because, Arthur and I, we like telling you guys about like, hey, we're putting this in context and stuff. So like, this is kind of like the context of when Weezer's second album, Pinkerton, comes out. So it's September 1996. I'm a senior in high school. And MTV did this thing called, music television. They had this thing called 120 Minutes. And this was for, like, I guess, like indie alternative rock music where we can't really play this during the daytime. So we're going to start it out. We're going to play 120 minutes, and it would be like on Sunday nights and like United States of America Central Time. It was like from, I think, like 11 to 1 o'clock, like 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Now, a lot of times, like an act where, okay, we know we might play this during the daytime, the video would debut on 120 Minutes. So I remember I was like, okay, I'm going to stay up, but I think I didn't. And our mutual friend Kevin, he heard it before me. And I was like, hey, did you hear Weezer's first single, El Scorcho? He was like, yeah. I was like, hey, was it good? He was like, I think he said, I don't know. Right? And I think that's the proper response. So I was like, oh, what? Oh, what? So when I heard El Scorcho for the first time, I was blown away. Now, having said that, guys, so even though like people, they'll say like, hey, the Blue Album, their first album, is polished, power pop. And then Pinkerton is rough around the edges. Even when I listen to the Blue Album, it doesn't sound like polished, like it's a Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band or Nirvana's Nevermind. But I guess compared to this, it was like, I don't know, it wasn't saccharine, but I guess it was better production. So Rivers Cuomo and the drummer, Pat Wilson, they went on Questlove's podcast. And towards the end of the interview, they mentioned like Pinkerton. Because I think even now, like when you kind of know about Weezer and you just know like about musical knowledge, this album is kind of known for, hey, it tanked with the critics and commercially. But then boom, it kind of secretly had a revisionist history. So like even like years later, like Rolling Stone magazine panned it and then they reevaluated it and they gave it a better rating. And we'll talk about why that happened. So on Questlove's show, they asked about Pinkerton and they said, yeah, so we produced the album. And when we were done, we were pretty excited. And when we invited Rick Ocasek to listen to it, he was kind of like, oh. And Rivers Cuomo was like, oh, that's when I kind of figured we may have messed up. And I remember reading an article about this album, and Rivers Cuomo, he described it as, we're going to rock out with our cock out.
Real Weezer fans know that they haven't had a good album since Pinkerton in '96. Oh, wow. Looks like we have a purist in the house. Yes. All right. I'm going to have fun with this.
What's happening right now?
What's happening is that Weezer put out 2 perfect albums, Blue and Pinkerton, and the rest was pretty corny.
Wow, well, that's your opinion, but me, I'm ride or die.
For Weezer?
They've been trash since 2001, son.
Okay. So this album, which, guys, look. Okay, so full disclosure. Guys, look. Wu-Tang Forever that came out months later in June of 1997, that's my favorite album of all time. And this record that we're about to talk about, El Scorcho, this is my favorite song of all time. And we're going to talk about that, like, because this song, it's whimsical, It's poignant. It's irreverent. It's silly. It's meaningful. It's ridiculous. And like, I kind of have a pattern of liking that stuff. Like Doctor Who is the same thing. It's scary. It's silly. It's poignant. It's ridiculous. It's drama. It's action. It's comedy. Like, what's happening here? So this song where, you know, you and I, we talked about, like, to me, I don't feel like there are any singles on this album. This is what not to do. Like, I understand, like, there's a legion of fans. They celebrate Pinkerton. Pinkerton ended up getting celebrated because it inadvertently started third wave emo. So, like, first wave emo, hardcore rock scene in Washington, D.C. in the 80s. I don't know what second wave is, but there was in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a movement in rock, indie rock called emo, and Weezer's second album, Pinkerton, played a big role in that. So when they were kind of told that, they didn't understand it, because the thing is, when they were going to make the second album, Rivers Cuomo had the not excellent idea, to do a rock opera. And it was going to be something about like a guy going into space, and because he saw he saw something that inspired him, and he was going to, you know, Pinkerton Detective Agency or whatever. It was going to be an outer space opera, space opera, whatever. Fall in love with an alien, a robot, astronaut. The music's out there. You can listen to it. And I really enjoy Blast Off. So then they were like, okay, we're going to scrap that. But some of the ideas stayed on this Pinkerton album, and they made Pinkerton. They produced it, and I love it. They have background vocals, and they're not in sync and harmonized. They're screaming and yelling in the background. The guitars are fuzzy and scratchy. They're screaming and yelling in this. This record, El Scorcho, is off-kiltered. It sounds like a rocking chair that's old and creaking at the wrong times. I freaking love it. But this is what it not to do, kids. So when they came out this album, and it was commercially and I guess critically not acclaimed, Rivers got very depressed. He went to Harvard. The band went away for 5 years. Rivers Cuomo had surgery on his leg where he lengthened it, where they put screws in there, and he would have to tie the screws every day. Just all this stuff. So when they came back in 2000 with the Green Album, they were like, okay, we're going to give this one more go. It was probably one of those things where if this doesn't work, we're going to break up. So when they go on the Warped Tour, which was a thing like in 2000, and they're like, and Weezer's coming out. They were hearing like, Weezer. And the chants were louder than when they've ever heard before. They're like, whoa, I thought people hated us. Like, people hated that Pinkerton album. And they're chanting for us, but they didn't realize you started this movement while you were gone. So I threw this record at you, El Scorcho. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I'm a sucker for dudes trying to talk to girls records. Like, especially when it's like, hey, I'm not even pretending I'm gonna be cool about it. Like, I'm trying to talk to you, and I'm gonna lay down the sword, and I'm just gonna come to you and say, hey, I flat out like you, and I don't know how this is gonna work, but I want it to work, and I want to try to get it to work, and I was hoping that maybe you wanted to try to get it to work. Like, on its face, that's what this record is, right? If you take the context out of everything else and just listen to the song, read the lyrics, whatever, right? So for me, I liked it immediately. But knowing the context before I listened to it this time, it's like, oh, okay. Like I was telling you before we started, it's like, oh, they made the We Got the Whole City Behind Us album basically one or two albums too early, right? So, yes. And they did it during a period of time where people were too very obsessed with the stats, right? Like, you made a hit, you made one hit album, now you need to make another hit album. and you don't get to get weird until like your third or fourth album. And what they did is they thought, well, we could do what we want now because we got rope. We made a hit album. We think they didn't, like you're talking about it, like when you're living the life and you're not thinking about being strategic, you're just a musician and you think, hey, I'm a musician. Me and my buddies make some music. We can do whatever we want, right? Like, especially once we have a hit, because, yeah, we'll be good to go. But then they find out that the music business is in a different font than the music, a bigger font and italics. It's a business. And once people start counting on you for commerce, it's kind of scary to think that having hits, you would think having hits would give you a bunch of freedom. But in an odd way, sometimes having a bunch of hits take away your freedom. Because when people start assuming, and especially a record company, when they start using you as a part of their balance sheet, like I always talk about this when we talk about rap. Like I really bring this up a lot around people. Like, hey, you do get that Jay-Z was coming out with an album every year, and he had to come out with it at a certain time of the year to help that record company manage their balance sheet, because they were trying to hit certain goals. And they would say, hey, no matter where we're at, we know we're going to get that Jay-Z album in the fourth quarter to pump our numbers up. That's Jay-Z. Like, and that was at the point when he was like as big as he could be. And he was getting hit with the deadlines and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, it's always interesting how artists get caught off guard by this part of the business. And so I'm really fascinated by how this happened to Rivers and his crew here at Weezer, because they thought, oh, man, we got this. We got a hit album. And like you're saying, that first album is not exactly, like they have hits on there and they have anthems on there. But when you listen to that album, that's not like a pandering album. Like they did what they wanted to do on that album. And it worked out. And then they thought they were going to do the same thing with Pinkerton. And they went all the way out with it. But like the song itself, oh yeah, come on. I love it. And it's the way it starts is such a catch you off guard if you don't know it's coming. It's like, oh, okay. These dudes were. And the fact that they did this for the first single is like, man, y'all were taking a lot of liberties. Like y'all thought people we're just going to let y'all do 100%. Oh, but yeah, that first album, like they did not exactly meet everybody halfway. That wasn't a pandering album. It went really well, but they didn't pander. So I could see from Weezer's standpoint how they thought, oh, shoot, we got hits doing what we want to do. Shoot, let's do what we want to do again. And yeah, we'll just hit again. This will be great. And it didn't happen.
And I think with the bass player who leaves after this album, Matt Sharp, I think he's also pushing that agenda where after this, where Rivers like, no, I want to lean into what works. I want to play the game. Matt Sharp's not there because I don't think he would have done it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a challenge too as a band, because again, are you a band that is mostly about having those hits, or do you turn into that once you have a hit because now you want to run it back? But do you run it back by making the same album a second time, or do you switch it up just to show your talent and your depth and what you're capable of? It's such a fascinating question for musicians. Because it's supposed to be just the music. You're supposed to just be able to make what you want and hope that people roll with you. But I think that's a one-dimensional way to look at it, because we've seen it go wrong for so many great artists so many times.
And like what you were saying as far as like Jay-Z, the label, they're telling them, hey, I need you to come out every so often because you're the flagship and we need to do our balance sheets. So like with Doctor Who in the 70s, they changed around their shooting schedule productions So they're saying like, hey, okay, if it's going to be a 6-part story, have some of your characters in certain episodes because that's going to be the scheduling block. And that way we're only paying them for that part and not the whole thing. So that's affecting writing, like of the plot. So with things like Jay-Z may be thinking like, well, I want to take a vacation or I want to kind of sit on something. Man, I don't have time to sit on something because I have to put this stuff out because of business situations.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is El Scorcho. Okay, we're going to talk about it. Now, Arthur, these are the lyrics. And I'm going to do a trigger warning. There's some language in here, some fetishization, perhaps. So that's trigger warning. But it's, you hear someone, oh, and in the video, they're not trying. And not saying that they ever really tried in those other ones, but this, again, like, you'll never make money. I can't remember what that was on, but this is definitely, again, I'm a young person. I'm loving this. Like, oh, like they're being irreverent. Someone did the chicken dance. I don't know how to describe it, but when you put your hands together, like you're about to pray, but you kind of wave them over one shoulder and then you wave them around another shoulder, like victory. Matt Sharp does that. Like, it's very like, I can see someone going, don't do this, please don't do this. And they're crying, but they're like, no, we think this will work. And they're like, this is not going to work. It worked for me. But okay, so here's the song. These are the lyrics. So you guys see what we're dealing with. It goes, El Scorcho, ay caramba. And it says, GD, you have Japanese girls. Do it to me every time. Oh, the redhead said you shred the cello. And I'm jello, baby. That fetishization of the redhead.
Yeah.
She said you'll shred the cello. But you won't talk, won't look, won't think of me. I'm the epitome of public enemy.
Bars.
Why you want to go and do me like that? Yes. Because there is these volumes where you can get these demo tapes of Rivers by himself. And I should have looked it up. He covers a Ice Cube song. And I'm wondering if it's one of those Ice Cube songs where when he went to Public Enemy's team to produce his album. So, but you won't talk, won't look, won't think of me. I'm the epitome of Public Enemy. Why you want to go and do me like that? Come down the street and dance with me. So we said this before where they say out-of-pocket stuff. So on the single Buddy Holly, what's with these homies dissing my girl? Why do they have to front? Right here, why you want to go and do me like that? And again, hey, as much as I'm like making fun of this song and I'm saying like it's irreverent and they're acting like they don't give a care, this is actually very sincere.
Yes.
It got to the point where I think Rivers regretted some of the stuff that he was saying on this album. And it took a long time for them to perform these songs again because they were shying away from it because it's like, man, okay, so Mike Myers, not the killer in the Halloween movies, but from the Saturday Night Live fame, the guy from Canada doing sketch comedy, he made Wayne's World for a cheap price, and it made a bunch of money worldwide. So they let him make part two. Part two didn't make as much money, but still, it was great. It was great. So then he did this movie called So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Woman! Whoa, man! Oh, man! She was a thief. You gotta believe. She stole my heart and my cat. Betty, Judy, Josie, and those hot pussycats. They make me horny, Saturday morning. Girls of cartoons won't leave me in ruins. I want to be Betty's Barney. Hey, Jane, get me
same kind of thing like this Pinkerton thing, where it has a legion of fans, but it tanked at the box office and it was panned by the critics. But I freaking loved it. So it's the only movie where Mike Myers is playing like just a regular guy. After that, he just does straight characters. And like, I think people have tried to tell him like, no, man, hey man, I'm telling you, So I Met Her Axe Murder is great. And it's like, I don't want to talk about it. So the same thing, it took a while for them to start performing Pinkerton, to start performing El Scorcho. Because once they got tanked and they came back in 2000 with the Green Album did well and all that stuff, it took a long time for them to start putting Pinkerton back in their set list. So, this is the chorus. I'm a lot like you, so please, hello, I'm here, I'm waiting. I think I'd be good for you and you'd be good for me. I asked you to go to the Green Day concert. You said you never heard of them. How cool is that? So I went to your room and read your diary. Watching grunge leg drop New Jack through a press table. So that's wrestling?
Oh yeah, that's an ECW reference. This is great.
So okay, explain a little bit more of that, like because I thought he was saying hogwash back then. So explain it.
Okay, so WWE is the Xerox or the Kleenex or the Coca-Cola of wrestling, right? But
yeah, back
in the 90s, in the United States, there was a few different companies still. There was WCW, which eventually had, Hulk Hogan as a bad guy and the NWO and all that. And this was still around the same time, 96. But the Rebel wrestling group was ECW. They were at one point called Eastern Championship Wrestling, and then they got changed over and were called Extreme Championship Wrestling. And the idea was that there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of tables, there was chairs, there was just super athleticism, just people going out there and really hitting it from that standpoint.
Yeah, because I think in the early 2000s, I went to Josh's house, and I think they, like, off the top rope, like, suplexed, like, a grandma through a table.
Right. And that,
like, it was like a woman that used to wrestle back in the day, but,
yeah.
She at that point, she was like 60-something.
Right. Now, that was
And I was like,
WWF.
boy, wrestling changed.
Yeah, now that was WWF after ECW had become a thing.
So they're like, okay, we got to up the ante too now.
Right.
They got wide receivers. We got to go get some corners.
Exactly.
Okay, so later in life, I found out, that was referring to wrestling. Because at first I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. So the first verse, he's talking about like, hey, like, I want to step to this person, but they won't give me a time of day. Then boom, he does these like references. I asked you to go to the Green Day concert. You said you never heard of them. How cool is that? So it's like, what's up with that? Like, but then he dig more. So I went to your room and read your diary. Yikes. Watching grunge leg drop New Jack through a press table, and then my heart stopped. Listening to Cho saying, fall in love all over again. So Madame Butterfly, because Madame Butterfly inspired a lot of him wanting to do a rock opera and going out into space and fall in love with an alien or whatever. But then they got the scale got combed down to Pinkerton album. But it's still messing with that imagery, like the cover of this album and all that stuff. Some of the art design that's in the sleeve of the CD or record, it's all inspired by this. So New Jack is a wrestler.
Oh, yeah. And grunge is Johnny Grunge.
See, boy. Okay. So I asked you to go to the Green Day concert. You said you never heard of them. How cool is that? So I went to your room and read your diary. Watching grunge leg drop New Jack through a press table, and then my heart stopped. Listening to Cho saying, fall in love all over again. So it's like, okay, I'm liking you on these other levels because you like all this other stuff, deepening the fascination. And then it goes back into the chorus. I'm a lot like you, so please, hello, I'm here, I'm waiting. Oh, what could it be now? I think I'd be good for you and you'd be good for me. And then we go into the bridge, or what the Beatles would call the middle eight section. So you get like when you listen to some of the Beatles demos and the songs are unfinished, you can hear John Lennon go like, and this is where the middle eight would be. Like whenever we figure that out. And sometimes that would be like John Lennon's working on a song and then Paul McCartney got a little bit of a song. He's like, hey, what if my part of the song was the middle eight and just drop it in the middle? Bam. And then we keep going. Song structure. Okay, so how stupid is it? I can't talk about it. I got to sing about it and make a record of my heart. And then this is where, because they're kind of doing it live or whatever, so Brian Bell has to sing this part. Because if they're doing it like studio production and all this, you can just do the punch ins and Rivers could keep singing this part. But it's a part where like the way it comes in, that's why I like this. That's why I like the production of this, because it's honest. So like in live, this is probably what would have to happen. But in the studio, you can get around this. But because of the way they're recording this, Brian Bell, the guitar and second backup vocalist, he has to sing this part. So then this part he goes, how stupid is it? I can't talk about it. I got to sing about it and make a record of my heart. And now Rivers can come back and sing this part. How stupid is it? Won't you give me a minute? Just come up to me and say hello to my heart. How stupid is it? For all I know, you want me to, and maybe you just don't know what to do, and maybe you're scared to say, I'm falling for you. And then we get this, this may be a mistake, this silly guitar solo with them mimicking a silly guitar solo in the background. Like, you'll never make money. So I wish I could get my head out of this sand because we make a good team and you would keep my fingernails clean. But that's just a stupid dream that I won't realize because I can't even look in your eyes. Without shaking, and I ain't faking, I'll bring home the turkey if you bring home the bacon. What else do y'all want from these people?
Man.
Dude, that hit me every time. I remember I was in high school and it was one of them situations where like it was a school newspaper or something. I guess you could probably pay to put something in there. And I had some friends, they put that in there. Without shaking, and I ain't faking, I'll bring home the turkey if you bring home the bacon.
Having a crush on somebody, like, is this weird feeling. And this song does an amazing job, whether they did it on purpose or not, of getting that feeling across. Because it's so, like you say, it's honest, it's direct, it's laying down the sword again. It's like, hey, I'm here, man. Like, I really want to talk to you, and I don't know, but I just think you like me too. Like, maybe I'm just making myself want to believe that. Like, all of that stuff is the things that a lot of people go through when they have crushes on people, and I'm always a sucker for these types of songs. So this was, maybe I wasn't the right person to throw this on because this was guaranteed to work on me for sure.
And then they close it again. I'm a lot like you, so please. Hello, I'm here. I'm waiting. Then someone in the background goes, waiting. I think I'd be good for you and you be good for me. I'm a lot like you. Then someone in the background goes, I'm a lot like you. I'm waiting. I think I'd be good for you and you be good for me. And they start whooping and hollering at the end. That is El Scorcho, man. The chord progression is going from acoustic, electric. There's soft parts. There's the loud parts, which was a big thing going on with rock music in the 90s. Starting off with the Pixies on. But yeah, man, I thought like, oh, whoa, like, because I remember thinking like, man, I really like the first album. Man, I love this because I love Pinkerton to death. So like, if you listen to Wu-Tang Forever and like how it's produced and all that stuff, and you listen to this is like the baseboard of like music I've been picking. Like it's all coming, like it all led to that moment and then it all spearheaded out of that moment. I love this. This is, I think this is a banger, like what the young people say. I think this is a good record. And I think it's all the things. I think it also, I think it covers that time period again, like I know like we were getting out of that slacker lifestyle and all that stuff, but it wasn't like they'll try to make it seem like, man, they were nuts. It didn't come out of a vacuum. There was stuff going on like this, like musically, independent movies were coming out like crazy. And this was the start of like just independent movies winning awards, and then like independent movies like, hey, maybe we might need to blow this up. Maybe we might need to look into this. Like these small films, maybe it should be a budget behind them to take some more risks. So it came out of that. So when they tell you like, man, they were foolish for doing this, I don't think they just took this risk out of nowhere. There were things going on like this in the Zeitgeist. And I think they got caught up. I think they got fooled. Even I can't remember, it was when they were going to make Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band or the Magical Mystery Tour. But I think the manager was like, Brian Epstein was like, I don't think this is going to work. And John Lennon was like, oh, it'll work, it's us. And Weezer, they tried to pull that, and they found out real quick, no, it won't.
No, at least not at first. It was the right call.
It did.
Yeah, it was the right call.
Yes.
Eventually, it was found out that they got it right. And we talk about a lot of important artists over the course of music history, and they've had their El Scorchos or their Pinkertons. And it's always interesting how, history will come back around on these great albums. Eventually people give it the right kind of listen, and it's like, oh, this is what they were doing. And like certain bands and acts don't always survive their quote unquote masterpiece not being, I don't know what the right word is, treated right, beloved properly, or appreciated at the time of its release. Like that's gotta be a lot on an artist, right? To deal with that feeling. Like, man, I thought I really knocked this thing out of the park, and now people are telling me they don't like it for reasons that don't have anything to do with the music being bad. It's just they expected something, and I didn't give it to them, and now they're not even giving what I actually gave to them a chance. That's tough.
And then after that, Weezer had to live with, and this is first world problem, but all right, so we're going to do other things. And now it's like, well, how come you're not making Pinkerton? It's like, dude, I was almost about to change professions. Because y'all say y'all like it, but it didn't show in the... But it debuted... Oh, man, I forgot. Like, in Houston, Texas, they had this paper where it would tell you, like, things going on in the city as far as music or plays or whatever. So I do have... I think it debuted at 16 or whatever. But, they could say like, hey, well, we were getting panned. They weren't playing our stuff. Like, we didn't have any radio hits on this thing. Now, I think in their mind, they thought they did. Because, hey, that's why it's like, hey, you'll hear me say this a lot on this podcast. Don't listen to me. But to me, I thought they had radio hits. So, like, I think, like, the second single on this is The Good Life. I think that is something where if they would have played that in some places, that could have gotten some traction. But yeah, now they got to live with the Blue Album and Pinkerton. That's when Weezer peaked. And after that, they just went downhill. Saturday Night Live, like 5 years ago, they did a skit about it where these people are like at this, husbands and wives dinner party, and somehow Weezer gets brought up, and they're having these arguments that fans would have. And the funny thing about it was only between these two people, and the rest of the folks are like, wait a minute, are we still talking about Weezer? And they're like, yeah, Rivers, he hasn't made a great record since Pinkerton. Okay, so I'm assuming Rivers is somebody in Weezer. So it's kind of like, again, because that's what Weezer is. They should not have happened. But they did happen, but they should not be with us now, but they are. Like, they're still releasing albums. They do cruises. People go on the cruises. If they come to your town, folks go, they sell out, and they're playing in big places, but it was very unlikely. And we're here now. So, hey, party on to all the 90s acts that are in 2025 and still going. More power to them.
Yep, we don't get everybody. So
we don't get everybody because there was a lot of good acts in the 90s and they're not with us now. So I'm like, okay, hey, props, all praises due. So that's all I have for now with Pinkerton. I may return to it. I know, like, kind of down the line, I guess make this a trilogy and end it with another Weezer record with them further in time just to see, was there any growth? Were there any lessons learned? Or are they still acting a fool? So, final thoughts about El Scorcho, Arthur.
I'm a lot like you, so please, hello, I'm here. I'm waiting. I think I'd be good for you and you'd be good for me. How much more do you need to say? Like, that covers the base. That's a hell of a chorus. That's a great chorus. It's a perfect Crush song chorus. And people got caught up in the shenanigans and just didn't appreciate it the way they were supposed to. Sometimes public opinion just misses, man. And that's what happened with this record. This should have gone over like gangbusters. It should have.
I don't know.
And it just didn't. It just didn't.
As much as I love this album, this song, and also things were going on too. But like I was telling you, they were trying to get rid of grunge, and like Weezer was never grunge, but they got lumped into it. And then boom, this was the start of the Lilith Fair. We're about to start getting the rap rock and all that stuff. So things were just kind of changing. And Weezer got kind of like, whoa, where do we? So the fact that they lasted and it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. So, and I believe when you watch the video, Rivers isn't wearing the glasses. And I think they were trying to get him to wear them. Like, hey, that's like your shtick, right? And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. So it's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, so, guys, write into us. Where are these places where they can reach us, Arthur?
On the Record Jams, on the Twitter, OTRJ at Blue Sky. We have On the Record on Facebook. We have On the Record Jams at gmail.com. And like you said, we have YouTube, we have iTunes, anywhere you put your comments at, we can keep the conversation going. I would love to talk more about this record because it's again, I view it as like this should have worked. This record should have worked. Yes. Like, I understand the logic of it, and because again, I am a sucker for Crush records, like, because they just work on me. I understand the feeling. I guess maybe I was just one of those, like, especially during this time, like, yeah, I mean, you have crushes on people and you talk yourself into this story and you tell yourself how great it could go, and maybe this person cares about you too and you just never figure it out, or maybe this person doesn't care about you at all, but when you don't know, you create this whole fantasy around it. And yeah, songs that go like that, yeah, it's not really hard to get into.
Watching grunge leg drop New Jack through a press table, and then my heart stopped listening to Cho saying, fall in love all over again. And then someone in the background goes, ah! I mean, guys, y'all gotta listen to this, because you gotta hear this. You guys, we'll put the link in there, but you gotta hear this because, dude, they were crashing out, guys. They were wilding out, and they were surprised. We're like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? So yeah, guys, hey, and write into us and tell us, like, other examples of someone, like, an album getting revisited and then it's being ranked higher, or when, like, an artist you like, they took this turn that people didn't agree with, but you're like, wait a minute, no, I kind of like that, and then they swerve back. So, like, maybe they have an album that everyone's like, oh, I don't really like that one, but you're like, no, I like that one. So yeah, write in and give us these other examples of other people's Pinkertons.
Stevie Wonder.
If you can, yeah, Stevie Wonder. If you can, write to us. What's one of your favorite sophomore albums from a musical act? So until next time, keep your lamplight trimmed and burning.
And keep on jamming.
Boom. Yeah, I'll revisit Pinkerton or something else because they got so much foolishness. They got enough foolishness.